Just having my glass of water to get me ready.
Ciao bambini.
Good morning and welcome to our whole school assembly.
Hola!
Let's get some learning on.
Welcome to another day of home learning.
What time is it?
So we're going to work out the volume of this spring roll.
And they're all over the floor.
I consist of 95% water.
We learn grammar through the coolest tool, music.
Super goed.
Godt arbejde I dag, elever.
I just need to keep it up. I'm so proud of you. Well done.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Google Reference School webinar. My name is Kat Lamin, and I'm a Google certified educator, coach, trainer, and innovator. And I am delighted today to be joined by the staff from Oldham Hulme Grammar School. I said I'd get the name wrong. So I'm really delighted today to be joined by Marina and Mark from Oldham Hulme, and they're going to talk to us a little bit about their use of Chromebooks and Google from nursery through to sixth form. So if we can have Mark and Marina join us, that'd be lovely.
Hi, hello everyone.
And it's really lovely to have you both here. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm actually just going to put my feet up and hand over to the pair of you for this webinar. But if you could just start off by letting us know a little bit about yourselves and a little bit about the school, that would be really great for our audience. So thank you. I'm going to hand over.
Okay, bro. Marina, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I am Marina Constantinitou and I have worked for the school on the staff training and technical implementation of the Google project.
Bro, I'm Mark Jones. I'm Assistant Principal Academic, and before that I was Head of Physics and Director of e-learning. So I'd just like to share my screen just to show you a couple of quick stats and things. So I'll just do that. So we've been using G Suite since 2014. We're a small independent school, around 800 students in the northwest of England, in Oldham. So we stand for a modern education with traditional values, and that's really been the case, and that's really helped us since using the Google Workspace and G Suite, and then moving one-to-one Chromebooks. We started in 2015 in the senior school, and we were awarded Google reference status in 2016 in June. Now, the great thing we've got is that we do from nursery right through. So we've got little 2-year-olds right up to sixth form, age 18, aiming for Oxbridge. So what you'll see today is a lot of different uses through different aspects of the school, and we'll talk about how that interplays in teaching and learning, but also in how it helps us all the staff work collaboratively across a big area, and how we can seamlessly get that transition from Key Stage 2 into 3. And we're just really excited to share all the things our staff are doing. So really, I mean, it's brilliant. What Google is saying at the moment is Google Workspace helps you be the anywhere school. And I think that's really helped us, no matter where our students are, whether they're in school, whether they're in the nursery, whether they're in the senior school, in the sixth form, whether they're at home, whether they're on a field trip, they're able to learn. So a couple of things, I'd like to just draw a couple of things just right at the start. So we've also got a Hulme podcast, which is devoted to modern education. So there's a lot more detail on that. Anything we don't cover is actually covered in that. So there's brilliant, loads more Google Workspace ideas in there. So what we've got is a series of our staff talking about different use cases, how they're using it in lessons, how they're using it to speed up administration, things like teacher assessed grades and things like that. So what I thought we'd do is start off with a real introduction from Deb Maders, who's our head of chemistry. And she's going to talk really about people who are really brand new to this type of technology and how that's going to help them. And what is that learning curve like? How easy it is to adopt these technologies? And then as we go through the webinar, what we're going to see is move from the sort of basic that everybody's doing, that is integrated into everything we do, right up to the end where we're using AppScript to run different automations and help streamline our school systems. So I'd like to lead in with this first video from Deb Maders.
Hello, my name is Deborah Maders. I'm head of chemistry at Oldham Hulme Grammar School, and I was the reluctant Googler. I still am much happier with traditional chalk and talk. However, I have to say that I have really, really warmed to a lot of the Google features. Through lockdown, obviously, I'm recording this on a Google Meet. That was amazing for the lessons during lockdown. I don't feel we lost much teaching time because of the platform that we had. If I present my screen, see, very technologically advanced nowadays, I can show you some of the things that I use that I have to say I never thought I would do. And it is really nothing to be scared of. So for those of you who are feeling a bit out of your depth, please, don't worry about it, I think is the key. Hopefully, you now see a little picture of me in the corner with the rest of my screen. The other things that I've taken for granted now, and we use all the time, are things like the Google Drive, the shared drive in particular. If you look here, we have all our chemistry things on a shared drive, schemes of work, departmental handbook. The most useful one is just the one that says chemistry, which has all our year groups, and everything is filed away electronically. Again, don't get me wrong, I'm still not the most technologically advanced. It's a lot of scan and sends are in there rather than just typed up and put straight onto it. But it's made our life a lot easier. So any member of the department can come along, go into year 11, and they have access to everything that we've got in year 11. All nice and neatly ordered. It has made life a lot easier. We still have the paper copies. We have not gone completely down to Google Drive, but we are getting a lot better. So that has been fantastic. The other basic bit that I use all the time, every single day now, is Google Classroom. So for example, this is year 12, 12C. There's yesterday's work, some independent research. So we put the instructions on. Oops, there's the instructions. So it was a research about thalidomide. The document was there to explain what was happening. And then the students can actually then hand their work in here, and it can be marked on here, on the classroom. Comments can go down the side. You can write on their documents, so you can add your comments onto their documents. All things I honestly never thought I would use, but really fantastic things to actually have in your armory. I will say this has taken me a while. Those are the basics that I use, like I say, all the time. It has taken me a while. Lockdown speeded up my learning of Google. But please, if you feel like me, and I'm fairly sure a lot of people do, don't be scared. There is an awful lot of positives to work with. You don't have to use every bit of add-ons. I am way behind the rest of my department on using all the other features. However, the basics are fantastic. I hope it goes well for you. Thanks a lot. Bye.
So I think you can see there really a great insight into the fact that it's not scary to use this technology. And I think what we've got now is a great support network where the head of chemistry is there, modeling, collaboration, and communication. So everything's there open for everybody. And then different members in the department can use different tools, but there's a common theme. And I think you'll see that throughout the videos we're showing, which is about using Drive to store that data. The pupils are using that throughout the school, and then using Classroom, which was touched on there. But we're going to go into that in a little bit more detail with the next video. So just before we do that, I think just note on the training and how we sort of go about setting that up. So we use, and we pushed quite a lot with this, and Marina was instrumental in giving after school and lunchtime sessions. But we've structured our training around the Google Education Certified Educator scheme, and essentially doing level 1 and level 2 certification for that. So lots of staff were doing that, and found that a really good way to explore all the different ways, like setting playlists in YouTube, sharing the documents initially, wasn't it? But we used that, and And then you've got the multiple choice questions as well and stuff like that. And it was quite interesting seeing teachers put in the learner mode, wasn't it, and taking their assessments in the summer term. It was quite interesting, that. Google Education Training Centre. So what we're going to do next is move into what we call mission control. Google call it mission control, and it really is. So we're going to look at Google Classroom in this next video, and then that's going to really serve as a good link into all the other videos, because really that's what holds our communication together with the students. Okay, so we're ready for this next video from Hannah. Hannah Plews in our Latin department, showing how we use Google Classroom.
Hi, I'm Hannah and I teach Latin, and what I like about Google Classroom, there's lots of things. First though, I like the fact that in one place, on one assignment, I can have various links, videos, documents all together on one place. So for example, here I was teaching about gender in the Latin language. In one place I had the link to the textbook that we could read together as a class and discuss, the document that I then wanted the students to do, and then for those that had finished first, and as extension, an online task from the Cambridge website for them to practice embedding what I had just taught them. And I have all these things in one place. And once I had taught the language feature and we discussed it and the students had started working on it, they have in the very same place on Google Classroom the textbook page where they could go back and read again before asking me for extra help. They could go back and see if they could understand it themselves. So I like the fact I can have lots of things in one assignment on one page. The other thing that I really like about Google Classroom, and that I use a lot, is the reuse this post feature. So I have 4 groups of Year 9 Latin, and I want to use this assignment again with another group. So what I would do, I would go to my other group, I would click on classwork, create, reuse post. Then in this section, I would make sure I'd selected up here the class that I had already posted it in, which was 9A Latin, my boys' class. This is from April, but if I'd just done it recently, it'd be up there at the top of the list. So I've already put it in my 9A boys Latin class. I'd select it like this, click reuse, and the whole thing appears in my 9A girls Latin class. And I just have to assign it up here. And it saves a lot of time getting lots of tabs open. There we go. Lots of tabs open and just repeating what you've done on the same assignment by just clicking that reuse post. So there's a couple of things that I really like about Google Classroom and I use a lot.
Yeah, so we've seen there a few guides on that. I think really Google Classroom is used by every teacher, every student, every single lesson, every day. And one of the things we've done is that all homework is set as an assignment on Google Classroom. So it has a due date, and then that links in with the student's calendar. So it will tell them when that's going to be due. And then also the great thing about this is it's really, and what Hannah was saying there about having all that detailed information in there for the student and supporting them, you can put those extra links in with that assignment. But one of the other great things about communication is that it allows greater depth of understanding from the parents, because every assignment then shows up on the Guardian email summaries. So I'll just share my screen quickly here, but this is some stuff from Google that we used to share with parents and staff when we were introducing this. So it's from a website up on there, but we've got basically on this right hand side, we're seeing here that student work is just put on the right hand side, and they get details of what the assignment is, when it's due. So this is just taken from one of the web pages there. This isn't from our school stuff here, but so you can see when it's due and more detail about that. So our parents have really been excited by the fact that they get to know more detail about that. They can talk to their son or daughter about that, and feel there's been so much positive feedback on the fact they feel more involved in their son or daughter's work. So that's been great for organisation. I think also the other place about using Classroom, it's not just for setting homework like that. We've got a teaching and learning community, and that's done via that. So we organise things on there. People will post their resources. You can ask questions, put notes onto there. We've got the prefects set their own group up. Marina, you allow different permissions to different students to be able to set that up. So normally a student wouldn't be able to set up their own classroom, but again, within the organisational structure, you can allow different permissions. We set them up for D of E, for sports teams. So they're really, Hannah, being the gifted and talented coordinator, will set other things up there, and Google Classroom's a great way for putting extra stretch and challenge activities on, whether it's for a class or whether it's just to extend that during form time and things like that. Okay, so what we're going to see next is a video from our head of art, Joe Greystock, on innovative ways in which they use Google Slides presentations within the art curriculum.
Since COVID, we have been using Google Slides to work as interactive sketchbooks with all our Key Stage 4 and 5 students. This slideshow here is made by one of our Year 12s. It's shared with all her teachers, so we can access it anywhere that we can look at Google Slides, anywhere with the internet. So I can see it on my phone, she can see it on her phone, we can see it on Chromebooks, PCs, anywhere that we log in to Google Drive. So she has recorded her brainstorm as you would do in a sketchbook. All her research is on the next few pages, along with her annotations. So this means that you don't have to print anything out. You can also make suggestions. So you could say, have you thought about this artist? You can do that by adding a comment. If you right click on a slide, you can add a comment and say, consider looking at Mimo Ratala. And then you can add the comment, and then that student will see that. You can @ the student so that it sends them an email. You saw there that there was an option. If you @ there's a list of names come up, and you could send it so that the student got an email and they would know that you'd sent something for them on the slides. Although the comments show here, so they'd be able to see that there was a comment on their slide. So it goes on with lots of research. So this is the student's own work now. So she's taken photographs of work that she's made, and she's written about what she's done and how she would improve it. So all her annotations are included here. This is also her own work, some further experiments. So this is some research here at the top, and then some of her own work at the bottom. So it's a really good way of recording and documenting the progress of ideas, and it's just available to both student and teacher at all times, so you can mark it at your convenience. You don't have to wait for them to bring sketchbooks in and things like that. So this is some of her work in response to the artists that she's seen. We've got some analysis of what she's done here, and you could comment as a teacher on which were more effective. Again, through the comments you could highlight particular parts. So if I was to click this here, and then I could right click and say comments. So I'm commenting on this section. I could say excellent analysis that demonstrates good understanding of how to review work. So you just give a little bit of feedback on particular things, and then the student would see that the comment is related to that section. It's really good for adding animations in and GIFs into your work. So she became interested in inverting images, and then here she's showing the 2 stages of her picture, how she intended it to be viewed. So in real life it's only seen as a flat image like this, but you can see that she's shown how she intends it to be viewed as an image in itself. So it's a really good way of communicating, of keeping on top of things, of sharing ideas, and for teachers and students to make comments so they can ask you questions on it themselves. Should I bring this in? Should I do this? What do you think of these photographs? So while they're at home they could take photographs, and you can help them to develop those before they're back into school, if you feel like doing it outside school and they're sending you messages. So here you can see I've added a slide of an artist that's related to the work that she's doing. So I've sent her a link to a video, told what the artist does. Maybe it's something that she wants to look up. If it's something she's disinterested in, she can just delete this slide and she doesn't need to use it, but it's there. So it's documented as a thought that I've had to help her progress. You can also add links to your own videos. So let's say there was a video here that I had that would relate to this. So on my YouTube channel I could find a suitable video that I had made, maybe this one, and then I could just share that with her. Go to here, copy video link, go back into her work and say insert video, and then I paste the link in, look it up, and there's my video that I can insert into her work. And then I could add a comment and say, watch this, it might help. So it's just a brilliant way of sharing and using interactive resources and keeping on top of everything.
So I think that's a stunning way, really, of using technology to enhance learning. I mean, you'd think when I maybe first started teaching 15 years ago or so, and you thought about a presentation software, it was literally just to present some ideas to the class. Whereas now what we're seeing there is Google's 4 C's in action, really. Creativity. So we're using not only just creativity in the standard arts kind of way, but we're looking at innovative uses of different tools. We've got collaboration between the student and the teacher and that feedback from that. We've got communication. So that's with that at, and then each student can just be, and that works with staff all the time. If you've got a document or something, then you can just at somebody and they'll just get a message and direct it exactly to that point in the document. And then we've got critical thinking. So it's the 4 C's. So analysing their work, asking suggestions, and then being pushed further to extra resources from that feedback cycle, that personalised feedback that you're allowed to do in this way. So it's quite interesting the way a lot of these strategies, I mean, that might have been, in the old days, that would have been a physical sketchbook. And then in light of COVID and people working from home, we went to the model where, okay, well, if they're at home, how are we going to get that working? They can't move their sketchbook between places. But now, Key Stage 4 and 5, so GCSE and A-level, that's what they're using as their default model. And they're not going to go back to that post-COVID, so that they're going to stay with what they've got there. And you can really see why that sort of feedback that they're able to give on the students' work is, the depth is fantastic there. The other thing they don't necessarily show there, but in art, they use a lot of videos on skills and techniques. So they'll film themselves doing that, and then they'll link to their own videos. And quite often that sketchbook will be, this would be even better if you could just do it like this. And then they can reuse those videos. And they're building up a really good sort of database of those skills videos. Okay, so we've got another look at slides here in a different way in English from Catherine Jones. So it'll be interesting to talk about that one, and then we'll do a little bit more towards using slides and innovative uses.
Google Slides has become an integral part of the way that I deliver my subject, which is English. It's become the bedrock of the lesson structure that I use in the classroom. Recently, however, in the last 18 months, it's also really come into its own due to the changing requirements of teaching due to the pandemic. The fact that we are often required to provide blended learning, remote learning, students at home, staff at home, all sorts of different circumstances. And Google Slides has provided really the solution to lots of those potential challenges. So I've highlighted different ways that you can use Google Slides in the classroom and for blended learning. The first sort of obvious application is in the classroom, in live lessons, when you're in front of the students. You use your Google Slide as a sort of display board as the students are coming in. You can hit the ground running with all the information you need the students to have at the start of the lesson. I found it reduces the need for printed worksheets because you have your clear instructions in front of you. And the real beauty of it is its versatility. You can adapt, reuse, update the slides year after year for different classes and different requirements. Very easy to share Google Slides with colleagues and with students. And there's lots of scope for collaborating as well, kind of live in lessons. So everyone can share their ideas just in the same way you would with a whiteboard and marker pen. But of course, this has got a permanence to it as well. Here's an example of a small project task that we have done with our Year 8 based on Oliver Twist. And here's the task set up for the students as they come in. We would do a task together looking at a style model with some questions. And then I would draw their attention to some analysis here of the style model before setting them off on their task. All the detailed instructions are there with the extra challenge for those who are able to have a go at it there. The second application of Google Slides is to then connect that class learning to the home learning. And we do that here via Google Classroom. So all you would do is upload your Google Slides onto the classroom and your classes can then access all the materials that you presented to them in class. And it's organised in such a way that they can easily find different subjects, different topics that have been covered. And it's all in one place for them. So it helps you and it helps them as well. Obviously, if you've had a student absent or someone who wants to revise something that's been covered in class for going over. The final way that we found to use Google Slides is to create a digital display, a kind of virtual equivalent of the notice board, display board in the classroom, and to record the students' achievements. By making a wee video login with your Google account, you can very simply download the Google Slides you made. Here's the wanted posters again, save them as a PDF, and that allows you to drop them into the free software at WeVideo and turn them into a short video. You can add credits, audio, special effects, however ambitious you're feeling. So here is an example of how I turned these Google Slides into a digital display that I could share with students, with parents, for presentation evenings. There's all sorts of different ways that you might use this display to sort of record the students' achievements on a particular topic.
So this is what I love, watching stuff like this and just like creative uses of the core apps. So you would have been thinking of just a presentation software and then what you can do with it now. It must be great, actually, if you worked for Google itself and you think, just put these tools in the hands of educators and creative young people and see what they come up with. It's really exciting, that.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to jump in. I just want to say, it's really nice to see, like, in particular, that last piece of work, the fact that some of the students were using digital resources and some were using physical resources to create their work. And it wasn't that sort of, I must use the technology or I must use pen and paper. They had that option. It was just really nice to see it all brought together. And again, the artwork as well. I mean, that was absolutely stunning. You must be so proud of your students. Really, really beautiful work. I've jumped in now because we're about halfway through our webinar. We are 30 minutes in, amazingly, already. And I had a couple of questions I wanted to ask you because I was thinking back about that first video. Is it Debbie or Deborah who we met?
Yeah.
And she was talking about how she wasn't a big fan of technology. So I just thought it'd be nice to ask you what you felt helped her get over that fear of technology, because it seemed quite clear that she was, well, she thought of herself as a technophobe. She was using it confidently. So what do you think was a big win for her?
I think that is interesting though, isn't it, Rena? When you think, like, they put up a block that I am a technophobe. At what point does Deb admit that actually I'm using technology in all of my lessons in innovative ways? I'm not a technophobe anymore. I mean, what do you think, Rena, on that? I think he sees their impact on the students, I think.
That's what I was going to say. The ease with which the students have adopted everything, I think that has helped people like Deborah to embrace Google.
Yes, it's all about the student impact. That's really nice to hear. And then the other question I had was, you mentioned briefly that you've done a bit of staff training because of, needing to shift things up again. So how much time do you think you put towards staff training, and also how impactful do you think that has been in terms of, lockdown and everything else?
Well, if we're talking in terms of training related directly to the lockdowns, then not very much, because we were in a very privileged position. So when we realized what was happening, we put together a couple of sessions on using Google Meet and Screencastify, giving some tips to staff. And on Monday, we just moved the classroom from school to home.
And so you were already set up and ready to go in terms of...
Absolutely. But obviously, throughout the years, it's been a continuous process. We set up formal sessions, drop-in sessions, always ad hoc, so staff can always come and see us and we can show them how to do things. And this obviously also continued throughout the lockdown. So people would always, if they were unsure about how to use something that maybe they never thought about using in the past, because they always had pen and paper, obviously we also provided training.
That's
I mean, it's those things of moving from that Twilight and fixed inset, then where we set up Google Classrooms, and then there were self-paced classes that we put on, weren't there? They could work through things and then tick off as they went along. And then I think what we've got now is that there's such a good knowledge base in there. Say a new member of staff came in and they're asking a technophobe at our school how to do something. That technophobe isn't that. They know how to do things and they'll pass that knowledge on. So it's quite a good informal network now, isn't it? It's kind of like, and watching stuff like this and learning from other schools as well is fantastic. Just thinking, hey, we could do that here.
Absolutely. So I think what Debbie was saying before, that she is actually a technophobe. She doesn't actually realize how much progress she has made. So she thinks that what she does is very basic. Actually, she has moved all her teaching online.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yes. I won't hold you because we have got lots more videos to show, and I can see a question in the chat which we'll come back to when we've seen a few more videos.
Brilliant. Okay. We could go into annotating. So one of the things that's brilliant at the moment is that the new Chromebooks that you get, we advise, obviously we've been having Chromebooks since 2015 one-to-one in senior school, but we now recommend touchscreen devices, which opens up the idea of annotating for staff and for students. And that's kind of groundbreaking, really, in terms of, when Deb was mentioning marking work on Classroom, you can either just use the Android app for Classroom and just annotate straight on the work as if you were marking it normally. So I think it's annotating and this building of metacognitive skills in the students, knowing what to do when they don't know what to do. So what do I do when I approach a question? And bringing them from their novice level up to expert level, as the same as the teachers. So we're going to see a video now from Dave Berry, our head of psychology, talking about how he uses annotations on his Chromebook to help the students.
Hi everyone, my name's Dave Berry, and in this short segment I'm just going to show you how to annotate a PDF document. So first of all, I'm just going to share my screen. I'm just going to go into Drive here, and hopefully sitting in my recent documents will be an exam paper. There it is, which previously I've converted into a PDF document. Okay, so I just need to download this so I can use my stylus and write directly on the screen. So here's the document. Now I'll just convert my screen to kind of tablet form there. So I'll just move up the, you can see here, this is a document that I've already been working on previously. So it is possible to save any changes that you make to the document, and you can then distribute these to the students. So we'll just scroll down. I'll deliberately pick the easiest questions so I don't get it wrong. So this is a section B on a psychology paper. So I'll just show you one or two things that you can do here. So I've tapped on the pen icon there. I'll just wait for it to reappear. So if we were considering this as a past paper question in class, then maybe I might want to draw my students' attention to various parts of the question. So I might highlight that there, which makes it clear what memory model we're going to use. I might want to point out the difference between condition A and condition B. And I might also make it clear that the question just asked me to name components. So that's all I intend to do. If you make a mistake, then obviously you can get rid of anything using the eraser there. So if I didn't actually want to highlight that first part, which I didn't, then I can just simply remove that. So anything that I write, as I say, on here will be saved on this document. So let's go with the answer there, which is articulatory loop. You can see it's fairly easy to write on the screen. My writing's not the best at the best of times, but hopefully that's legible. And then the second one is a part of the memory that we'd use to track coloured shapes on a screen. That's the visual spatial sketchpad. Okay, so that's the only one I'm going to attempt, because this is just for the purposes of showing you how to do it. So if we go into these three dots here, just click on there. So if we go into the arrow, we get the option there of saving the document either with our changes or without. So if we want our students to have a copy of this, then we can save this with changes. All right, so there it will appear in our saved area. Now you also get the option of changing the name of the document. So I'm going to change this to paper 2 version 2, and then I'm going to save it, and then that hopefully will sit in my files app. So let's close everything down and just make sure that's happened. So there's files. So if we go into downloads, then there we can see paper 2 version 2. Okay. Now if I download that file and I find that in Drive, there it is. Okay. I have the option then of copying that to the students. So if I click on share, share with others, right, I can then type in email addresses there, and I can share any changes that I've made to that document. Alternatively, I could upload that into Google Classroom, and then all students will be able to access that information. Okay, so hopefully that's clear, and that's a brief summary of how you can make changes to an annotated document and then transfer those changes to your students. Thanks a lot.
Brilliant. So you can easily see that that's a really useful thing. And then you can also, I'll just share my screen just quickly on this one and before we move on to the next video. But also while you're doing that, you can actually record and screen record your own screen at that point. So at the bottom right on the Chromebooks, you can just go to screen capture and then the video icon and then turn on the microphone as well. And then you can actually record your screen as you're doing that. And then you've got that to keep. You could then tie that in with Google Sites and have those videos for the students to look at for the next year as well. So you're not having to post into the classroom even, and different classes can use the same resources. So this is, say, for example, the physics website here with links to different things. And then if you click on different parts within here, this really ties, this is what we love about Google, the fact that it ties everything together. And that really helps people see why they should be using these workspace tools. So you've got Sites, which then just brings in straight stuff from your drives. We've got Google Docs stuff here. Then we've got Google Slides things here, and you can go through the different slides there. Then you can record yourself talking over those, and these are videos of the same things. So there's loads of things, and this is what's great about Google, tying it all together. And then you've got stretch and challenge stuff there as well. So the next one, the final one of these really the teaching and learning centric things is Jamboard. So we've got Tom Leng of our history department just talking about how this innovative use really got popular over lockdown, but it's going to be really popular in normal lessons too. So this is Tom.
Hi, my name is Tom Leng, and I work here at Oldham Hulme Grammar School. Today I want to talk to you about something called Jamboard. Jamboard is fantastic. It's a tool which I found really useful in lockdown, but also since then I've used it on numerous occasions with my classes. I use it for a variety of different ways. I create kind of digital worksheets. I use it for class discussion where everyone can participate. I've used it for blended learning for people who are at home, isolating, and for people in class. I've used it in all sorts of different ways. Here are some of the ways in which I've used it. So during lockdown, we were doing the story of Henry II and Thomas Becket, and the idea was to get a narrative account in their head of the story. So we went through the story as a class online, and then their task was to create a storyboard using Jamboard. What I did was kind of create the format, the template, and they, at the end of it, did a speed storyboard where they kind of quickly drew the characters and wrote the story. And in the end, they got a quick overview of that narrative. I also use it, I've used it for Year 8 work when we do slavery. I kind of pre-made the presentation, a particular slide, I call it. And on the left-hand side, I put, to a large extent, partly, a little, not at all. And as I went through each of them, they all had their own copies. This particular student moved or copied, duplicated the tabs on the left, and then dragged it over to the person that they thought was relevant to that particular comment. In this case, it was who was responsible and what extent were responsible for the transatlantic slave trade. And the students were all really engaged with that particular activity, and it worked really well, that particular activity. I could then show, by presenting my screen, the best presentations and get each student to kind of say why they put them in that particular order. It can also be used for a starter or an end task or a task in between in the middle of a lesson. And for this particular lesson, we learnt about the Middle Passage. Again, looking at kind of enslaved Africans and the slave trade. And I asked them to write down quickly 5 things they'd learnt about the middle passage. Again, that was quick, effective, and really easy to set up. All I had to do there was put a picture there, tell them the task, and share it on the classroom, and that was done. It can also be used really well for the A-level classes I have. What we did here in particular was basically a start on the left and a finishing point on the right, what they already knew about the functions of Parliament, and at the end, anything new they'd learnt. Also, in groups, they can work in groups on these things. We looked at how effectively or ineffectively Parliament carries out each of their roles. So there's a couple of people working, or a few people working on that, a few people working on scrutiny, and a few people working on representing the people. And they kind of made comments based on the textbook they were reading, the sheets they were reading at home or in a classroom, and they kind of came up with arguments for and against. So Jamboard is a really great way to get students to work on a digital worksheet, work collaboratively, and it can be used at home, in class, blended learning. It's definitely something to use or to consider.
Brilliant. Yeah, so Jamboard, another one of these like excellent resources for getting a response from every student. So it's not like the old style, just hands up. This is like each student, you have a go at it, and then let's pick some screens, look at those, display those. Why did you pick this? And again, yeah, doing that creativity, and then the critical thinking. Why did you put that there? Why not choose this instead? Right, we haven't got so long, but we've got a lot to fit back in. So that really focuses on the teaching and learning centric ones. But obviously, as schools got lots of other things in terms of the moment, senior school colleagues will all know about tags, teacher assessed grades, and how do we go about organising that over a large school and checking that all the data's in there and the right people have access to it, but nobody else has access to that. Were there any changes? Okay, so we've got one from Becky Turner, who's our Director of Studies at Hulme, just talking about how we've managed the tags process, so the teacher assessed grades at Hulme, and the power of Google Sheets and the collaborative features with that.
I want to talk to you about the power of shared Google Drives and Google Sheets and the controls they're provided in teacher assessed grades, and going forward how we might use these in pupil tracking and monitoring. The process all schools went through this year was data-driven, and Google gave us flexibility to collect, use, and share this data. Shared drives allowed us to store, search, and access files with a team of people. The beauty of a shared drive is that nobody owns the documents, so the work is available to anybody in the drive from anywhere, from any device. Shared drive gives you different access rights for individuals. For example, viewer, commentator, contributor, contents manager, or manager. This has been invaluable to us. It's been amazing in the process to control the folders to ensure everybody in the process has only the rights they require. Moving on, using shared Google Sheets has allowed us to collect data all in one space. The formal evidence gathering was exported directly from our management information system and automatically exports to Google Sheets. Here, we can use all the inbuilt formulas and functions, filter the data, and sort the data. We also use Sheets in the informal stages of evidence gathering, where staff worked on their own sheets, and the beauty of Google is how it all links and gathers in one place. Any common data can be put in one place, and individual class evidence is linked to a separate space. It also allows us to link Google Docs for all the documentation. So everything was in one easy, accessible workspace for everyone involved to view. Sheets has allowed us to collaborate effectively with large scales, use version control, access write controls, and link between sheets in different files. They've allowed quality assurance and collaborators to access the information they need. The use of pivot tables, for example, has allowed us to take the data and display it in different formats with the use of mail merges in Google Docs.
All in all, the process of tags has been made a lot easier with the use of Google Docs and Google Apps for Education. And moving forward, we will use this in our tracking systems.
So again, I think everything we're doing really shows that each Google Workspace tool doesn't sit in isolation. Everything links together, doesn't it? So Drive linking to Sheets, linking to Docs, and then you've got version history, so you can go back through. All that bit of data has been deleted. When did that happen? And you can see all of that, and who made that change and when. So it's been really, really useful. Right. The other thing then was just quickly on Sheets. So we use Sheets quite a lot. So I was just going to tie into the next phase of what we're doing, which is about how you can start to move to the next level, which is automation and using AppScript. So Marina's pre-recorded an excellent section on that, which we're going to do next. And then we've got time for a couple of questions. So if you want to post those below, we'll get to answering those questions after the next video.
Hello. We use Google Sheets quite extensively throughout the school on both the administration and academic side. In the last couple of years, we started experimenting with AppScript in order to automate and digitize some internal processes. An example of this is the awarding of house points to students. We'll talk you through this process backwards. So it all starts with a spreadsheet that holds information imported from the school MIS. That information is on these two tabs at the end here, Staff, that contains staff email addresses and names, and Students, that contains student names, email addresses, house, year group, and form. We then add the code, and this is done under Tools and Script Editor. Okay, I'm just going to show you this very, very quickly, but I'm not going to really bore you with this. The end result, however, is an app that we publish and make available to all staff via the shared bookmarks on the managed Chrome browser. And by clicking on this, staff are presented with this page. Now you remember that this is linked to the spreadsheet we were just looking at. So as you can see, the date and the name of the member of staff who's logged in are auto-populated. So all a member of staff needs to do is start typing the name of the student or students they want to award house points to. And as they start typing, the system suggests names looking at the student tab here. Obviously, I will not do this for obvious reasons, but as my children actually attend the school, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste their names in here. So there are three of them, and as I put in part of their surname in there, the system has come up with these suggestions. So I can choose one, or I can choose all of them. I can choose up to 10 students at a time. And once I'm ready, I just click on Run, and this records these house points onto the spreadsheet. So, however, one more thing happens before we move on. We can actually click on Preview here, and the script also generates a little certificate that gets emailed to the student. The certificate is created from a template on Google Slides. So once I'm happy, just click Run, and the house point gets recorded onto here. And as you can see, there are thousands of entries. obviously the student names are hidden over here. And then a number of formulas are being used to filter the information per year, per house, and per student. However, this information is not really presented in a way that is easy for staff to read. So what we do instead is we have a dedicated page on the staff portal. Our staff portal is built on Google Sites, by the way. So we have a dedicated page on the staff portal for house points. So if staff want to know at any time what is the total, they click on this. And the information that is recorded on the spreadsheet that holds the script produces this chart. So this is live, feeding off the spreadsheet. So at any point, any member of staff can actually see the totals. The students also have got access to this. Additionally, every year group has got their own dedicated spreadsheet that feeds off the main one. So heads of year or form tutors can go on at any point and see how the competition between the forms in the year group is forming. And if they want to know how many house points each student in the form has been awarded, they select the tab for the form, and they should be able to see the names that are again hidden here and the total number of house points.
Brilliant. Yeah, so that's great. And I think Marina's behind all this sort of automation that we're doing and making the sheets really exciting there.
I'm so conscious we're running out of time, so I've jumped in quickly. I'd really love to see that video. I don't know if you noticed, Andrew Caffrey popped into the chat to say it was great to see the automation with AppScripts because he's a big fan of AppScript. I know we've got one more video to show, so we are going to slightly overrun, but I know you wanted to answer the question we've had from Ian before we get to the hour. So we've had one question in the chat from Ian just asking you, what advice would you give for other schools, especially independent schools who haven't really used the cloud yet?
Hi, Ian. The advice from me would be to definitely focus on the core technology, which is important, which is going to make so you do not actually overwhelm. Staff doesn't get overwhelmed. So show the benefits of core technology and make sure that you adapt the teaching, the training to fit the different departments.
I think as well, at the moment, any school looking to move now, you're pushing out an open door. You're not having to convince staff that this is important. What you're saying is that this is the best solution. And the fact that it's linking together, the fact that it works. And, you know, any school watching this, anybody watching it either live or later, you know, you can find a list of reference schools on the Google website. Just call them up. We love giving tours, whether it be in person or virtual, to all the staff. And, you know, it's a learning process. We'll learn a bit from you as well, and you'll be able to get a head start on the road down to utilising the Google Workspace technologies.
Yeah. So it's really important to mention, actually, the reference schools, you know, they exist to support other schools. So please do get in touch with your local one.
We love it because,
Mark.
Yeah, no, just seeing, we had chats with schools in Portugal and stuff, and it's just great all over the world. It really does link, it's borderless there. Yeah.
Brilliant. Right, I'll leave you to get on with the final video. Okay, great. So there's another video here, and this one, we realise it's been a bit senior school centric at this point, but another really great use of Google Sheets is in a planning point of view. So we've got our head of junior school, Rebecca Knott, talking about how she uses Google Sheets with planning in the juniors.
Hello, my name's Rebecca Knott. I am the head of juniors at Oldham Hulme Grammar School. I'm just going to show you some of the ways that we use Google Sheets to keep everyone organised behind the scenes in the juniors here. In each year group, we have a medium-term plan and data sheet, as you can see. This is where the teachers, so they take from their long-term planning and the national curriculum the information, and they put an outline of what they're planning to do on this document. So you can see I've got a row for different subjects. and each column across the top you can see the dates, different weeks that we've got there. And we've also got a link there. We've got various links on this spreadsheet. So there's a link to the Chromebook booking form. So teachers, if they particularly need the set of Chromebooks for a lesson, then they can go straight to there and book the Chromebooks out. The beauty of this is we've got subject specialist teachers who teach computer science, languages, art and DT, so they have access to this and they can add their information, their planning onto here alongside the class teachers planning. It means that if the class teacher is doing a themed week, the specialist teachers can see they might want to change their planning a little bit in order to fit in with that theme. They can also see what else is going on and see what's coming up. We have a tab for each. I particularly like these because this is a great thing about spreadsheets. Rather than a kind of a Word document, you have a tab for each piece of the document. So here we've got autumn term plan, spring term plan, summer term plan. But I also have some class information. I've just blacked out some of the personal data there, but you can see on here we've got dates of birth, we've got houses, we've got whether they're right or left-handed, whether the child's got a target sheet, whether they can have their photo on the internet, if they've got any medical needs or other information that might be useful for teachers here too. So this is, it's all useful to have. It means that the specialist teachers can just, if they've got any question marks about a child, they can click on there and check the information there. But we also have the data here. So on this data sheet, I've got I've got their reading ages, I've got their writing levels. I've got their high frequency word spelling test results. The staff can put all sorts of data there, and it means that the specialist teachers, again, if they're kind of concerned about the way that a child is responding to something that they're doing, they can just say, oh, well, what's their reading age? Well, that might be the reason for these difficulties. Similarly, they might want to check the writing levels as well. But this information is all quite useful to have in the one place. So that's one of the ways that we use spreadsheets. It's quite handy. To set up, it's quite easy. So you can change the size of your columns or rows just by selecting, highlighting across the top like that, and then using your arrows, and it will automatically change every row or column in that selection. Similarly, what you do need to do, and this is quite important, is select all and just make sure that the cells are on text wrap rather than overflow or clip, and that just means that the cells, the text will will all be visible in the cell, and you can see when it is on this other setting, you lose the text, and you don't want to do that. So you just want to make sure that it's wrapped, and then you can see every word that's been put on there. Other ways that we use spreadsheets, I also have all the information for our staff timetables. I've got the master TA timetable. There we go, I've lost that there. Duty rotas, support and who they might be supporting. We also use it for responses linked to Google Forms, and you can see on here what's nice about this. I've got form responses. This is extracurricular, so I actually have all the extracurricular responses. So in the autumn term it was form responses 1, and from there we collated lists, but we then also selected this spreadsheet as a destination in the spring term, and that's form responses 2. And then again in the summer term, and it just means, so I've got all the different clubs that different children want to be in, and from this form responses, I've got lists here, and you can see my formula across the top there of the children who filled, the parents who filled in, so the class teachers can check, oh, you know, I've got form responses from your parents and your parents, but can you just, you know, make sure you talk to your parents about which extracurricular clubs you want to be in, because you've not filled it in yet. And then we've got our list for the clubs here, and we've got different clubs across the top. Again, you can see my formula there, and it just selects the pupils' names, and it collates nice lists for the people running those clubs. So that's just some of the ways that we use spreadsheets in the juniors here at Oldham Hulme. Thank you.
It's been so lovely having you guys here, and it's great to hear from so many different staff. We're going to start winding up now. I just wanted to mention to everyone, in the chat will be our feedback form. So if anyone watching could fill that in, that would be really helpful. And also we've got another webinar. We've got a bumper 2 weeks. We've got another webinar this Thursday and next Thursday. So we're joined by Peter Horner at Barton Peveril and some of his team on Thursday talking about Chromebooks. And the following week, we're at Witton Park Academy with Zaytoon and Dan Manley. So that's going to be really good fun. I wanted to wind up now and give you a chance just to say a few sort of final thoughts. But before we go, I understand you've just recently been nominated for an Independent Schools Award.
Yes, we've been nominated in the category of Outstanding Response to COVID-19. So I think that's really down to, you know, a talented bunch of teachers, great pupils, but Google Workspace tools has revolutionized what we can do. Really has made us an anywhere school. Yes, it really
Brilliant. Congratulations. I really hope you win then. That's been really nice to hear. So before we finish, my last question for you all is, what one piece of advice would you give to other schools using Google Workspace? Just one sentence, whatever you want to say.
I'd say this works. So focus on using the tools and model that collaboration. And as soon as you start to build that collaboration, you model that with every aspect of the tools, and it's between schools, between departments, between teachers and students, between teaching, non-teaching staff. So I think the tools enable us to do that. So it works, and focus on the core apps.
Absolutely. It's worth spending the time. It really is intuitive. It's easy, and it will just happen naturally. So be brave.
Brilliant. Okay, is there anything else you want to say before we let people get back to enjoy their evenings?
No, it's great. I think it's just a brilliant way to support, challenge and inspire the students. And that's what we try to do day in, day out here.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute delight speaking to you over the last few weeks. And I know you've had a bit of a hectic couple of weeks, so I'm really grateful. Please thank your staff for those lovely videos. It was really nice to see. So thank you for joining us. Okay, bye everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.